Captain Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching Earth grow smaller through the view screen. After 50 years of dreaming and 20 years of building, humanity was finally leaving home. The ship hummed with quiet energy as it prepared to make the first jump to another star system. "All systems ready, Captain," reported Commander Hee-jin from her station. She had spent most of her adult life working on the jump drive technology that made this moment possible. Her hands moved across the control panel with steady confidence. Dae-hyun nodded and looked around the bridge. 25 crew members from 12 different countries worked together as one team. This was what humanity could achieve when they stopped fighting each other and reached for something greater. "Take us out, Hee-jin. Let's see what's waiting for us among the stars." The jump drive activated with a soft blue glow. Space twisted around them, and suddenly they were floating in the emptiness between stars. Earth's sun was just another point of light in the distance. "Jump successful," Hee-jin announced. "We are now in the Alpha Centauri system." The crew cheered quietly. They had done it. Humans were no longer trapped in one star system. They began scanning for planets and signs of life, excited to explore this new frontier. But their celebration lasted only 12 minutes. The space around them suddenly filled with massive ships that seemed to appear from nowhere. These vessels were unlike anything humans had ever imagined. They were enormous, stretching for kilometers, and their hulls seemed to shift and change color like living metal. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," said Communications Officer Tae-won, his voice tight with worry. The main view screen flickered and showed the image of an alien being. It was tall and thin, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. When it spoke, its voice was cold and final. "I am Admiral Kira of the Vorthak Hegemony. You are the species known as humans from the planet Earth. You have violated galactic law by leaving your designated system." Dae-hyun stepped forward. "I'm Captain Dae-hyun of the Earthship Horizon. We come in peace. We didn't know there were any laws about leaving our system." "Ignorance is not an excuse," Admiral Kira replied. "For the past 2,000 years, your species has been under observation. You have shown yourselves to be violent, unpredictable, and dangerous. You wage war against your own kind. You destroy your environment. You cannot be trusted with access to the galaxy." "That's not fair," Dae-hyun protested. "We've changed. We've learned to work together. This mission proves that. One mission does not erase 2 millennia of behavior," Kira said. "The Vorthak hegemony has protected galactic peace for 50,000 years. We will not allow your species to spread violence to other worlds." More alien ships appeared around the horizon. They were completely surrounded. "You will return to your system immediately," Kira continued. "A blockade will be established around your star system. No human ship will be allowed to leave. This is for the protection of all civilized species." "You can't do this," Dae-hyun said. "We have the right to explore space." "Rights are earned, not given," Kira replied. "Your species has not earned the right to travel among the stars. Return home, Captain. Do not attempt to leave your system again." The transmission ended. The alien ships began moving toward the horizon, their weapons powering up with threatening energy. Dae-hyun looked at his crew. They had trained for many situations, but not this one. They were completely outmatched. "Take us home, Hee-jin," he said quietly. The jump back to Earth's system felt very different from their triumphant departure. As they emerged near Earth, they saw more alien ships already taking positions around the solar system. The blockade was real. On Earth, the news of humanity's rejection spread quickly. Protests erupted in major cities. Some people demanded that Earth's military fight the aliens. Others said humans deserved this punishment for their violent history. Dr. So-young, who had been monitoring the mission from Earth's Deep Space Communications Center, watched the alien ships through the most powerful telescopes available. The vessels formed a perfect sphere around the entire solar system, positioned just beyond Pluto's orbit. "They're not just blocking our ships," she told her colleague, Engineer Tae-won, who had returned with the horizon. "They're setting up some kind of energy barrier." Tae-won pulled up the sensor readings from their encounter. Admiral Kira wasn't lying about protecting galactic peace. These ships represent at least 15 different alien species. This isn't just one civilization deciding to block us. It's a coalition. 3 days after the Horizon's return, the Vorthak activated their blockade system. A shimmering energy field appeared around the entire solar system. It was invisible to the naked eye but showed up clearly on every sensor. Earth's government immediately sent unmanned probes to test the barrier. The first probe simply vanished when it touched the energy field. Not destroyed or damaged. It ceased to exist entirely. The barrier operates on quantum principles I don't understand, Hyojin reported to the Emergency Council. It doesn't block or destroy matter. It removes it from this dimension entirely. Attempts to communicate through the barrier failed. Radio signals, laser communications, and quantum transmissions all stopped at the energy field. Earth was completely cut off from the rest of the galaxy. As weeks turned to months, the reality of their situation became clear. Humanity was trapped in their own solar system like animals in a cage. Space-based mining operations beyond the barrier were lost. Research stations and other star systems went silent. Earth was alone. The psychological impact hit different people in different ways. Some fell into depression, believing humanity would never reach the stars. Others became angry, demanding that Earth's military find a way to break through the blockade by force. But Taewon noticed something strange. While monitoring communication signals from the alien ships, he detected unusual energy patterns coming from Jupiter. The giant planet's magnetic field was fluctuating in ways that didn't match any known natural phenomena. It's almost like Jupiter is responding to the blockade, he told So-Young. Every time the Vorthak ships adjust their positions, Jupiter's magnetic field changes. So-Young studied the data with growing interest. This isn't random. Look at these patterns. They're too regular to be natural, but they don't match any known technology either. As Earth struggled to adapt to their new reality as galactic prisoners, the two scientists began to wonder if their solar system held secrets that even the Vorthak didn't know about. Jupiter, the massive gas giant that had always been just another planet, was acting like something far more complex. The blockade that was meant to contain humanity might have awakened something that had been sleeping in their own backyard for millions of years. 3 years had passed since the Vorthak blockade trapped humanity in their solar system. Earth was struggling, without access to asteroid mining operations beyond the barrier. Metal and rare elements were becoming scarce. Food production was stressed as the population continued to grow. In the major cities, riots broke out almost weekly. Some people blamed their governments for being too peaceful with the aliens. Others said humanity deserved this punishment. The unity that had once driven the space program was breaking apart. Captain Dae-hyun now commanded Earth's resistance fleet, a collection of ships that patrolled the inner solar system, looking for any weakness in the alien blockade. So far, they had found nothing. The energy barrier was perfect and absolute, but Dr. So-Young had been busy with a different kind of investigation. Before the blockade, she had been studying ancient artifacts found in the asteroid belt. Now, trapped with nothing but old data to review, she was finding patterns that had been overlooked during more exciting times. Taewon, look at this, she called from her workstation in the underground research facility on Luna. The moon base had become humanity's main science center since the blockade began. Taewon floated over in the low gravity, carrying a cup of recycled coffee that tasted like metal. What did you find? So-Young pointed to her screen, which showed images of strange structures buried deep inside several asteroids. These artifacts predate any known civilization. I've been analyzing their positioning, and they all point toward Jupiter with mathematical precision. That's interesting, but we already know Jupiter is acting strange, Taewon said. The magnetic field changes have been getting stronger for months. No, you don't understand. These structures are millions of years old. They were pointing at Jupiter long before humans even existed. And look at this. So-Young brought up another image. The construction techniques don't match anything we've seen from any known alien species, including the Vorthak. Taewon studied the data more carefully. The artifacts were clearly artificial, but their design was unlike anything in human or alien databases. They seemed to be made from materials that shouldn't exist, arranged in patterns that suggested knowledge of physics far beyond current understanding. What are you thinking? He asked. I think Jupiter isn't what we thought it was, So-Young said quietly. What if it's not a natural planet? What if it's artificial? The idea seemed impossible. Jupiter was massive, 11 times larger than Earth. The thought that something so huge could be artificially constructed was beyond belief. But as they studied the data together, more pieces began fitting together. Jupiter's magnetic field wasn't just fluctuating randomly. The patterns matched mathematical sequences that appeared in the ancient artifacts. The Great Red Spot, a storm that had raged for centuries, was showing changes that didn't match atmospheric models. "We need to get closer," Taewon said. "The monitoring stations around Jupiter aren't equipped for this kind of investigation." That was easier said than done. The Vorthak had positioned ships throughout the solar system to monitor human activity. Any large-scale mission to Jupiter would be detected immediately. But engineer Minho had been working on stealth technology using principles learned from studying the alien blockade. "I can't make a ship invisible," he told the team during a secret meeting. "But I can make it look like space debris." The plan was risky. They would modify a small research probe to hide its energy signature and launch it during a routine asteroid mining operation. The probe would drift slowly toward Jupiter, powered down except for passive sensors. Dr. Haijin, who had been working on understanding the blockade technology, helped design the probe's instruments. "If Jupiter really is artificial, we need sensors that can penetrate deep into its core," she said. The probe launch went perfectly. Hidden among chunks of asteroid debris, it began the long journey to Jupiter. It would take 8 months to reach the gas giant without using obvious propulsion. During those months, conditions on Earth continued to deteriorate. Food rationing was implemented in most countries. The space-based solar power stations were running at reduced capacity because replacement parts couldn't be manufactured without rare metals. Some political leaders began suggesting surrender. "Maybe the Vorthak are right," said the European Union president during a global council meeting. "Maybe humans aren't ready for space travel." But Captain Dae-hyun disagreed. "We're not the same species we were 1,000 years ago. Yes, we have problems. But we've also shown we can work together when it matters. This blockade isn't about protecting the galaxy. It's about controlling it." Meanwhile, the probe finally reached Jupiter. What it found changed everything. Jupiter's core wasn't made of compressed hydrogen and rock as scientists had believed. Deep beneath the gas layers was a massive technological structure. The probe's sensors detected materials that didn't exist in nature, arranged in geometric patterns that suggested incredible complexity. "It's a machine," So Young whispered as the data came in. "Jupiter is a gigantic machine." The probe's deeper scans revealed even more shocking information. The Great Red Spot wasn't a storm. It was an access port currently sealed but clearly designed to open. Throughout Jupiter's atmosphere were structures that looked like vast computer systems, all currently dormant. Most incredible of all, the probe detected inscriptions on the core structure. When linguist Unji analyzed them, she found they were written in a mathematical language that could be translated. "These aren't random symbols," she reported. "They're instructions, operating procedures. And at the center of it all is a single word that appears hundreds of times: Guardian." The team realized they were looking at something incredible. Jupiter wasn't just a planet. It was a guardian system built by an ancient civilization. The inscription suggested it was designed to protect the inner solar system, but it had been dormant for millions of years. "Guardian of what?" asked Taiwan. Unji continued translating the ancient text. "Guardian of the young species. Protector of those who seek to grow beyond their origins. Judge of worthiness for the greater galaxy." The implications were staggering. An ancient species had built Jupiter as a defensive system, specifically to protect developing civilizations. But who were these first makers, and why had Jupiter been sleeping for so long? More importantly, the inscriptions contained information about how to wake the Guardian up, but the activation required specific energy patterns that humanity didn't have the technology to generate. As Hai-Jin studied the activation requirements, she made a disturbing discovery. The energy signatures needed to wake Jupiter match exactly with the frequency patterns generated by the Vorthak blockade, she said. The irony was perfect. The aliens who had imprisoned humanity had unknowingly provided the key to awakening a system designed to protect species, like humans, from oppressive galactic powers. "They have no idea what they've done," Captain Dae-hyun said. "The Vorthak think they're containing a dangerous species. Instead, they've given us the tools to wake up the most powerful guardian in the solar system. But awakening Jupiter would require more than just understanding the technology. According to the ancient inscriptions, the guardian would judge humanity before deciding whether to help them. They would need to prove they were worthy of protection, not just clever enough to activate ancient machines. The question was, Would humanity pass a test designed by beings who had transcended physical existence millions of years ago? And what would the Vorthak do when they realized their perfect prison had become the key to their downfall? As Earth entered its 4th year of isolation, the human race stood at a crossroads. They could accept their fate as galactic prisoners, or they could take the ultimate gamble and attempt to wake a sleeping god. The discovery of Jupiter's true nature changed everything for humanity. In secret facilities across the solar system, scientists and engineers worked desperately to understand the ancient technology that had been sleeping in their backyard for millions of years. Dr. Hae-Jin led the team trying to decode the activation sequence. The energy patterns required were incredibly complex, involving quantum resonance frequencies that human technology could barely detect, let alone generate. "It's like trying to play a symphony with a broken instrument," she told the emergency council. "We understand what notes need to be played, but we don't have the right tools to play them." Engineer Minho had been studying the blockade energy for 3 years, looking for weaknesses. Now he approached it from a completely different angle. What if we don't try to break the blockade? What if we use it instead? The idea was brilliant and terrifying. The Vorthak energy barrier generated exactly the quantum frequencies needed to activate Jupiter's guardian systems. But using those frequencies would require building massive amplification equipment right under the aliens' noses. "Where could we hide something that big?" asked Captain Daehyun. Tae-wan had the answer. "Europa. The ice moon is riddled with caves and tunnels. We could build the resonance amplifiers deep under the ice, and the Vorthak would never see them. The project would require the cooperation of every human in the solar system. Metal would have to be stripped from non-essential systems. The International Space Station was quietly dismantled and its materials shipped to Europa. Mining operations were redirected to gather specific minerals needed for the amplifiers. Most importantly, the project had to remain completely secret. The Vorthak had monitoring stations throughout the system, and any unusual activity would trigger investigation. Dr. So Young coordinated the historical research while the engineers built their equipment. The ancient inscriptions contained more information about the first makers, the mysterious species that had built Jupiter's guardian system. "They weren't like us," she explained to the team working in Europa's ice caves. "The first makers transcended physical existence millions of years ago. But before they left this dimension, they built guardian systems to protect younger species from exactly what we're facing now." Yoonji, working day and night to translate more of the ancient language, discovered something crucial. "Jupiter doesn't just defend," she said. "It judges. The guardian system evaluates species to determine if they're ready for true galactic citizenship." "What kind of evaluation?" asked Tae-hyun. "Not military strength or technological advancement," Yoonji replied. "The inscriptions talk about wisdom, unity, and the ability to grow beyond tribal instincts. The first makers believed that only species who could work together for the common good should inherit the galaxy." This revelation worried many of the project leaders. Humanity had a history of war, environmental destruction, and violence. Would they pass a test designed by beings of pure wisdom? Captain Daehyun addressed these concerns during a broadcast to all human settlements. "We can't change our past," he said, "but we can show who we've become. This project proves we can work together when it matters. People from every nation, every culture, are risking their lives to build something greater than themselves." On Europa, the construction continued in the freezing tunnels beneath kilometers of ice. Workers from dozens of countries labored side by side, sharing resources and knowledge without the national boundaries that had once divided them. Minho and his engineering teams faced constant challenges. The resonance amplifiers had to be built with precision that pushed human technology to its limits. A single mistake in the quantum alignment could destroy the entire system, and possibly Europa itself. "We're building something that operates on principles we barely understand," he told Tae-wan during one of their brief rest periods. "It's like ancient humans trying to build a computer." But slowly, steadily, the amplifier network took shape. Hidden deep in Europa's ice, massive crystalline structures grew according to specifications found in Jupiter's ancient databanks. The crystals would capture the blockade energy and redirect it toward Jupiter in the exact patterns needed for activation. Admiral Kira, commanding the Vorthak blockade, began noticing increased human activity but dismissed it as desperation. "Let them exhaust themselves with pointless projects," she told her subordinates. "They cannot escape the barrier. and their isolation will eventually break their spirit. The Vorthak had grown complacent after 4 years of complete control. They had managed similar blockades around dozens of other species, and none had ever found a way to escape. Humans were just another primitive race learning to accept their limitations. But Dr. Hai-Jin was making final adjustments to the activation sequence. The resonance amplifiers were complete, and initial tests showed they could successfully capture and redirect the blockade energy. Everything was ready except for one final requirement. According to the ancient text, Jupiter's awakening required a conscious decision by the species seeking protection. It wasn't enough to activate the technology. Humanity had to formally request the Guardian's help and accept whatever judgment followed. "It's not a machine we can just turn on," Yunji explained. "It's a sleeping consciousness that chooses whether to wake up based on the worthiness of those asking for help." This meant the activation had to be a deliberate act by representatives of all humanity, not just a secret project by a few scientists. The risk was enormous. If the Vorthak detected the activation attempt before Jupiter could respond, they would certainly destroy Earth to prevent other species from learning about the Guardian system. Daehyun made the difficult decision to reveal the plan to Earth's population. In a global broadcast, he explained everything: the discovery of Jupiter's true nature, the construction of the amplifiers, and the test that lay ahead. "We're asking Jupiter to judge us," he said, "not as perfect beings, but as a species trying to become better than we were. The Vorthak see our violent history and decide we're too dangerous for the galaxy. We're asking the first makers to see our potential instead." The response was overwhelmingly positive. After 4 years of imprisonment and hardship, humanity was ready to take their destiny into their own hands. On the day of activation, representatives from every nation and space settlement gathered in the control center on Europa. The resonance amplifiers powered up, capturing the energy of the Vorthak blockade and preparing to redirect it toward Jupiter. As the final sequence began, Jupiter's great red spot suddenly stopped rotating for the first time in recorded history. Aurora-like energies began cascading across the gas giant's surface, visible even from Earth. The sleeping Guardian was beginning to stir, and with it, humanity's fate hung in the balance. Would Jupiter judge them worthy of protection, or would they face the consequences of awakening a power beyond their understanding? In the depths of space, the first stirrings of an ancient consciousness began to evaluate the young species that had dared to wake it from its million-year slumber. Jupiter's awakening sent shockwaves through the entire solar system. The massive planet's magnetic field expanded far beyond its normal boundaries, creating spectacular auroras on every world from Mercury to Neptune. But more than just a light show, something ancient and vast was stirring to consciousness after millions of years of sleep. Captain Daehyun stood in the control center on Europa, watching readouts that no human had ever seen before. "Jupiter's core temperature is rising, but not from normal heat," reported Dr. Hai-Jin. "This is pure energy conversion on a scale I can't even measure." Admiral Kira, commanding the Vorthak blockade, realized too late what was happening. Her sensors detected massive power fluctuations from Jupiter, but her databases contained no information about Guardian systems. The Vorthak had forgotten their own history. "All ships maintain blockade positions," she ordered her fleet. "This appears to be some kind of human weapon system hidden in the gas giant." But Jupiter was far more than a weapon. As its consciousness fully awakened, the ancient intelligence began reaching out to examine every technological system in the solar system. This included the Vorthak ships maintaining the blockade. The aliens found their computers suddenly accessing information they had never programmed. Navigation systems displayed star charts showing the locations of other Guardian constructs throughout the galaxy. Communication arrays received signals from dormant sensors that had been silent for geological ages. "Admiral," reported her science officer, his voice shaking, "our historical databases are being updated with information we don't have clearance for. According to these new files, our species descended from the Kethrani who were rejected by these Guardian systems millions of years ago." Kira felt her certainty crumbling. The Vorthak had always believed they were the original rulers of the galaxy, bringing order to younger species. The idea that they were descendants of a civilization that had failed some ancient test was impossible to accept. On Europa, Captain Daehyun experienced something no human had ever imagined. Jupiter's consciousness reached out to touch his mind directly. The contact was overwhelming, like trying to hold a conversation with a living galaxy. Images flooded his awareness. The first makers, beings of pure energy who had evolved beyond physical existence eons ago. Before leaving this dimension, they had built guardian constructs throughout the galaxy to watch over younger species and guide their development. "You seek judgment," Jupiter's voice echoed in his mind, not heard but felt directly in his consciousness. "Your species calls for protection from those who would cage you." "Yes," Daehyun managed to reply mentally. "We want to grow, to explore, to become part of something greater. The Vorthak say we're too violent, too dangerous, but we've learned to work together." Jupiter's examination was thorough and invasive. The ancient intelligence sifted through human history, seeing every war, every act of cruelty, every moment of hatred and violence. But it also saw the gradual progress, the slow but steady move toward cooperation, the sacrifices made for strangers, the unity achieved in the face of the blockade. Dr. So-young, monitoring from the research station, detected that Jupiter was also examining the Vorthak. "The Guardian isn't just evaluating us," she told the team. "It's looking at everyone in the local galactic region." As Jupiter processed vast amounts of data, the truth about the Vorthak hegemony became clear. They were not the ancient peacekeepers they claimed to be. Their species, the Kathrani, had been judged unworthy millions of years ago for their inability to evolve beyond conquest and domination. The advanced technology they possessed wasn't their own invention. They had scavenged it from the ruins of truly ancient civilizations, reverse engineering devices they didn't understand. Their protection of galactic peace was actually an attempt to prevent other species from awakening the Guardians and learning the truth. On the Vorthak flagship, Admiral Kira faced a crisis of faith as forbidden knowledge poured into her ship's computers. Her people's entire identity was built on a lie. They weren't noble guardians of civilization. They were the descendants of a failed species, desperately trying to maintain power they had never earned. Some Vorthak officers, overwhelmed by the revelation, requested permission to surrender. Others, led by War Commander Thexol, began preparing for a final assault on Earth before Jupiter could complete its judgment. "We cannot allow this information to spread," Thexol declared. "If other species learn the truth about our origins, the hegemony will collapse. We must destroy the humans before they can awaken other guardians." Meanwhile, Jupiter continued its evaluation of humanity. The ancient consciousness examined not just their history but their potential. It observed how they had responded to the blockade, not with immediate violence, but with scientific curiosity and gradual cooperation. Engineer Tae-Wan, linked to Jupiter's systems through the resonance amplifiers, received flashes of insight about the Guardian network. "There are dozens of these constructs throughout the galaxy," he told the team. "They've been sleeping for millions of years, waiting for worthy species to awaken them." But Jupiter's judgment was not yet complete. The Guardian intelligence was processing more than just human behavior. It was evaluating their capacity for growth, their potential to become something greater than their origins. Yunji, translating the communication streams flowing between Jupiter and the dormant Guardians, discovered the true nature of the test. "It's not about being perfect," she realized. "It's about showing the ability to choose wisdom over instinct, cooperation over competition." The first makers believed that only species who could transcend their basic nature deserved to inherit the galaxy. The evaluation process affected more than just Earth. Throughout the galaxy, ancient Guardian constructs began stirring in response to Jupiter's awakening. Species that had dominated their regions for millennia suddenly found their activities being monitored by intelligences far older and more powerful than anything they had imagined. Dr. Hyojin detected massive energy buildups in the Vorthak fleet. "They're charging their weapons," she warned. "I think they're going to attack Earth directly." Captain Daehyun, still in mental contact with Jupiter, felt the Guardian's growing awareness of the threat. But the ancient intelligence was bound by its own protocols. It could not simply destroy the Vorthak without proper justification. The species seeking protection had to prove their worth through their own actions. "Jupiter won't fight for us," Daehyun told his team. "It will judge us based on how we handle this crisis ourselves." The final test was approaching. Earth's small defense fleet faced the full might of the Vorthak hegemony. while Jupiter watched to see if humanity would meet violence with violence or find another way. War Commander Thexal launched his assault, determined to destroy Earth before the humans could spread the truth about the Guardian systems. His massive battle fleet accelerated toward Earth, weapons powered and ready to commit genocide. But Admiral Kira found herself facing an impossible choice. Duty demanded she support her fellow commander, but the truth about her people's origins had shattered everything she believed. The species she was trying to protect were descendants of failures, while the humans showed exactly the kind of growth and cooperation that the Guardians valued. As the battle for Earth's future began, Jupiter prepared to render its final judgment. Humanity's worthiness would be determined not by their military strength, but by their wisdom in the face of extinction. The sleeping giant had awakened, and with it, the fate of multiple species hung in the balance. The galaxy itself watched as ancient protocols activated for the first time in millions of years, ready to reshape the political structure of dozens of civilizations based on the choices made in the next few hours. The final battle for Earth's future began with War Commander Thexal's assault fleet racing toward humanity's homeworld. Their weapons could destroy entire continents, and their ships outnumbered Earth's defenders 100 to 1. But Captain Daehyun knew that meeting this attack with pure violence would doom humanity's judgment before Jupiter. All ships, defensive positions only, he ordered the Earth Defense Fleet. Do not fire unless civilians are directly threatened. We need to show Jupiter who we really are. His officers looked at him like he had lost his mind. Captain, they're coming to commit genocide, protested Commander Minho. We can't just let them attack us. We're not giving up, Daehyun replied. We're choosing our battles carefully. Jupiter is watching everything we do. Our response here will determine humanity's future for generations. On the Vorthak flagship, Admiral Kira watched her fellow commanders attack with growing doubt. The knowledge that her people were descendants of a failed species had shaken her to her core. Everything she had believed about Vorthak superiority was a lie built on stolen technology and forgotten shame. Admiral, should we support the assault? Asked her tactical officer. Kira hesitated. According to military protocol, she should join the attack. But the evidence streaming from Jupiter's awakened systems showed clearly that the Vorthak had become exactly what the Guardian constructs were designed to prevent: an aggressive species using superior technology to dominate others. The first Vorthak ships reached Earth's orbital space and began targeting the planet's major cities. But instead of firing immediately, they received an unexpected transmission from Captain Daehyun. Vorthak Fleet, this is Captain Daehyun of Earth. We know you believe you're protecting the galaxy from a dangerous species. We're asking you to wait long enough to see the truth about what your leaders haven't told you. The transmission included data from Jupiter's awakened memory banks, the real history of the Vorthak species and their origins. Many Vorthak officers, learning for the first time that their entire civilization was built on lies, began questioning their orders. War Commander Thexal, desperate to prevent this information from spreading further, opened fire on Earth's orbital stations. But his assault revealed something unexpected about human nature under extreme pressure. Instead of responding with all available weapons, Earth's defenders focused entirely on protecting civilian areas. When Vorthak ships attacked military targets, the humans fought back. But when civilian evacuation ships fled the combat zone, Earth's vessels moved to protect them rather than press any advantage. Dr. Hyojin, monitoring from Europa, watched the battle through Jupiter's enhanced sensors. They're not fighting to win, she realized. They're fighting to protect people. This distinction became crucial as the battle developed. Several Vorthak ships suffered critical damage and began falling toward populated areas of Earth. Without hesitation, human ships moved to intercept the falling vessels, even though this put them in direct danger. Commander Taewon, piloting one of Earth's escort ships, made a split-second decision that would define the battle. A damaged Vorthak cruiser was plummeting toward Seoul, where millions of people lived. Instead of letting it crash, he maneuvered his much smaller ship to push the cruiser away from the city. The collision destroyed both ships, but Seoul was saved. Taewon's final transmission was simple: protecting civilians regardless of species. That's what humans do. This act of sacrifice was broadcast throughout the Vorthak fleet. Seeing a human willingly die to save alien enemies, many Vorthak officers began refusing orders to attack civilian targets. Admiral Kira made her choice. All ships under my command cease fire immediately. Begin rescue operations for any damaged vessels, human or Vorthak. War Commander Thexal responded with fury. Admiral, you are committing treason against the hegemony. No, Kira replied. I'm ending a lie that has lasted too long. These humans show more honor in battle than we have shown in centuries of protecting the galaxy. The battle split the Vorthak fleet. Ships loyal to Thexal continued attacking Earth, while those following Kira began working with human forces to minimize casualties and protect civilian areas. Dr. So Young, watching from the Lunar Research Station, detected massive energy buildups from Jupiter. The Guardian is preparing to render judgment, she announced. But it's not just evaluating humans anymore. It's judging every species involved in this conflict. As the battle raged, Jupiter's consciousness expanded its examination beyond the solar system. Throughout the galaxy, dormant Guardian constructs began awakening in response to the first judgment in millions of years. The ancient network was coming back online. Captain Dae Hyun, still in mental contact with Jupiter, felt the Guardian's growing understanding of the situation. The ancient intelligence had observed not just human behavior, but how different Vorthak factions responded when confronted with truth about their origins. Your species shows potential. Jupiter's voice echoed in his mind. You choose protection over destruction, unity over division. But the judgment is not yours alone to receive. On Earth, the battle reached its climax as Thexal made a desperate final assault on the planet's surface. His remaining ships began bombing major cities, determined to prove that humans were just as violent as any other species when pushed to extremes. But humanity's response surprised everyone, including themselves. Instead of retaliating against Vorthak civilian ships in the area, Earth's forces concentrated entirely on evacuation and defense. Humans opened their shelters to fleeing Vorthak civilians, treating wounded aliens alongside their own people. Yunji, working in a makeshift hospital in Tokyo, found herself treating a Vorthak officer whose ship had been shot down by his own side for refusing to attack civilians. Why are you helping me? The alien asked weakly. Because you're hurt and we can help, she replied simply. That's reason enough. These moments of compassion were exactly what Jupiter had been looking for. The Guardian intelligence observed humans choosing to help their enemies, to protect the innocent regardless of species, to sacrifice their own safety for others. Admiral Kira, inspired by human behavior, made a final decision that would reshape galactic politics. She turned her remaining ships against Thexal's forces, declaring the old hegemony dissolved and calling for a new alliance based on cooperation rather than domination. As the last of Thexal's ships were disabled by the combined human Vorthak force, Jupiter prepared to announce its judgment. The ancient Guardian had seen enough to make its decision about humanity's worthiness for galactic citizenship. But more than that, it had observed the potential for other species to grow beyond their origins. The awakening would reshape not just humanity's future, but the future of every civilization in the galaxy. The age of the Vorthak hegemony was ending, but something greater was beginning. Jupiter's judgment would determine whether the galaxy would continue under the rule of stagnant powers, or evolve into something worthy of the first Maker's vision. As auroras danced across Earth's sky and ancient systems hummed to life throughout the galaxy, the sleeping giants prepared to reshape civilization itself.